Hello, good morning, welcome. I am Samuel Trapp. This is International Flavor. A little late this morning, but none the worse for the wear. It's a happy holiday for most of us. People aren't working today. I thought about not working, I must admit, when I realized I was going to be late for a fleeting moment. I had almost decided anyway that I was not going to arrive today. Then I was like, no, I have some other things I need to do, some errands to run. Some exciting news in the life of Samuel Edward Von Trapp. I'm not a Von Trapp. I'm just a plain old ordinary Trapp. It's only the royalty who get to use the Von, or those that think they are royalty and are not. At any rate, I'm here this morning in, excuse me, still coughing, a lingering cough as they call it. Perhaps it's emphysema. Maybe I have emphysema. That would be depressing because I've never smoked a cigarette. Allegedly, there was one time when a former brother-in-law of mine, who was a great dude, and I really thought he was one of the best dudes on the planet, accused me of, while drunk, taking a puff on his marijuana. Other than that, I'm really not a user of that sort of thing, and I don't recall it. So if you're Bill Clinton, it never occurred, or Hillary. I do not recall. I don't recall in my old age whether or not I did not have sexual relations, or you create your own definitions for words. Perhaps those things would work for me. No, I'm not a politician. I'm not a politician. I'm a businessman. Maybe we should play that again, because I did like some Depeche Mode in my youth as well, as the odd bit of drinking. I realized that I believe and I find it amusing. I find it rather comical, in fact, that now we've sent out all these geniuses to speak to the world about the necessity, to claim that Russia and China are going to take over Greenland, and so, as a preemptive strike, we need to do it ourselves. So much so that come February 1, we're going to penalize the European Union members who need to be penalized anyway. They should be punished. I agree with that. I think that a bunch of morons, but they're no better than than what is this guy's name? Is it Besant? What a nut! Did you watch him on the news yesterday? I've only seen the clips, and I've always thought that guy is probably your least intelligent, or if you're, how about we put it this way, leave your advertising to people like Rubio. That boy's a gifted liar. He's very good, and he's hidden his spots for quite a long time, and so let him do that instead of having your spokesman be. There's two of them that are just. What is the other guy's name? Steven something. And he's those two are your non-advertisers. Yeah, leave Trump out there talking about the efficacy of season Greenland. We got to take it in a preemptive strike. And the new thing is, now that the art of the deal didn't work, we put leverage out upon the old people from Europe, and the U.S. needs to take control of Greenland is the argument, because European nations are too weak to protect a strategic Arctic island in a potential future conflict, which never existed before. But now I tell you what, Greenland is under fire. They're going to be stolen. By God, we should be defending Canada next, because those darn Ruskies and Chinamen are going to be stealing the Arctic. Remember it was only months ago. It was 1 year ago when I was talking about the fact that the United States is extremely behind, very, very much far behind in the Arctic race, if you want to call it like that. Russia has a fleet of nuclear icebreakers. They've been investing when it wasn't popular to invest in the Arctic, and they have been doing it. And they have created shorter routes, not for the U.S. They created them for themselves, for China, for India, for allies, right? And the U.S. can't have that because we need to control the world of finance. And so if you do take Besant at his word, these people, these doggone freeloading Europeans are they too weak to protect a strategic Arctic island in potential future conflict. There would be no future conflict if everybody jumped on the same economic bandwagon, but we have to paint everything in war. I was noticing that gas, and I don't buy the cheap stuff. I do kind of a reverse sort of thing. I've always believed in either buying an octane sort of booster or paying for the good stuff, and in my I've had two trucks make it 300,000 plus miles, and I did that by minding the oil, replacing a transmission. Actually, the second one made it to 310,000 before the transmission went, and by putting in premium fuel on a regular basis. Not every tank, but like every third, and every third tank or something, I'd put in premium. But watching this, and I like how when people are mocking, which the media still does to Trump and company, they'll put in pictures of Besant looking like, a used car salesman, and they'll put him in with the hands out gesturing, and selling you whatever used car he's selling you this time. And he suggested that Washington's partners will eventually come around to the idea of handing over Greenland. And but I was watching on the pump too. I saw gas the other day, the cheap variety, at like $2.45. We haven't seen. Man, I was paying $4 a gallon not too many years ago, and I remember the fleecing of America by oil, and so perhaps and this is a positive, a very positive. I don't want to. I say some of the things that I say. And I still disagree fundamentally, on a fundamental basis, with a lot of foreign policy moves by the Trump administration. I just disagree on a fundamental basis. I don't believe the world should be seen through the lens of constant conflict and constant me great me. I saw today. I assume JR left this here for our perusal, and it says something about ask the amazing Trump. It's the amazing Trump button or something like that, which I didn't play with yet. But before I leave today, I shall push the button and see what it does. I'm assuming it'll just say, the Arctic is ours, or it's going to be, something like that. But for now, if you don't have a button, you have to go out and listen to used car salesmen like Besant. And he, of course, over the weekend suggested that Washington's partners will come around to the idea. Trump has long sought American control over Greenland, but it really is an autonomous Danish territory, and it only has a population of about 56,000 people. I don't understand why we have to turn it into the United States. Nobody has articulated that to me in these fake threats of Russia and China taking it over. That I disagree with, but if you want to, perhaps I don't understand why we couldn't play better with others. You know what I mean? Arguing the island is critical to defense is wrong, against Russia and China. Trump's push is creating huge rifts between Washington and European NATO, but they don't really have much to do because they really are weak, and they've already knifed themselves in the chest by creating an enemy that doesn't exist in Russia and going into business more with China. And I think, if anything, this move by Trump is going to first force them further into the arms of the waiting Chinese. If you're not paying attention, the Chinese are very quickly unloading U.S. debt. And, excuse me, and I think that Trump runs the risk of he's already pulled the pin on the hand grenade, and he's holding on to the hand grenade while still holding in the release. Because you pull the pin, you hold the lever down, and then you throw it. And when it, you have several seconds. I've only thrown one hand grenade in my life because everyone's required to in basic training, and you have to throw that hand grenade. And I was freaked out by it even then. I was afraid that I would drop the damn thing and end up in parts as parts, and you can't have that. And at any rate, this hand grenade pin has been pulled, and if anything, what it's going to do is force alternatives that are already being forced. And since the Venezuela push and the stealing of oil in Venezuela, it's even going more quickly. So in an interview on NBC on Sunday, Besant once again says Greenland is essential to U.S. defense in an upcoming battle for the Arctic, is what he says, and saying that Washington won't outsource our national security. Now, I heard something about the whatever our version is of the Iron Dome, that we have to steal it for those purposes. Down the road, this fight for the Arctic is real, says Besant. If there were an attack on Greenland from Russia, from some other area, we would get dragged in. So better now. The logic here is astounding. Better now, peace through strength. You know that they've been baking this and this cake and creating it because they have. This is the used car salesman in him, and in the Trump administration, and making it so. Better now, peace through strength. Make it part of the United States. We are the strongest country in the world. Europeans project weakness. The U.S. projects strength. And he argued that European countries had shown they were unable to push back against Russia in Ukraine. So what have we done? We threw money at it for, quite a few years. Trump hasn't done anything to resolve the conflict in Ukraine. He hasn't cut him off. The smart move would have been to cut him off a long time ago. I've been saying that forever. Europeans, right in that, but who they've been following. It's been a year of chaos since, at least on that front, of mismanagement, of reversals. You say one thing, you do another, then you do one thing and you say another, and you just keep on going. I can settle it 24 hours. I'll have it settled before I take office. I'll have it settled then. He needs to be held to account for these things too. And I agree, it's not his war. It was his war in the beginning, to some extent, because he's the one that gave what did he give away? Stinger missiles or something like that. I forget what he said he gave him, that Obama gave him, MREs and blankets, and I gave him weapons. And but now he's completely swapped. He's stolen Venezuela, and now he's going to steal Greenland, and he's just coming out of the closet, of peace. At any rate, what excuse me, still coughing today. What would happen in Ukraine if the U.S. pulled its support out? The whole thing would collapse, he said, calling the choice between Greenland and NATO a false one. Trump has threatened tariffs on 8 European countries opposing his Greenland push as tensions continue to escalate. The EU voices support for Denmark and is considering a retaliation package of its own. Although Germany pulled back the 5 troops it sent over because that got Trump going. Did you read his long True Social post? That was pretty comical, where he basically, was talking about the dog sledding, and they sent over literally, and this was stupid anyway. Why in the world would you bother to send 20 troops over? Obviously, that's gonna piss him off and push him over the edge, which obviously it is. Russia has huge Arctic presence, but is thousands of kilometers from Greenland. And they call the situation extraordinary, noting that it recognizes the island as Danish territory. Rather entertaining. And the people from Greenland do not want, did I just say that? Bad grammar on a Monday morning, but it's a holiday. Do you get bad grammar passes on holidays as well? Let's see. I wanted to share with you one of the, I don't know if you know who this is, but back year and a half ago, I watched a really funny, it was hilarious, in fact, they have a show called Comedy Club, and there's a phenomenon that has occurred in Russia, and let's see, that phenomena is called Cheburashka. And Cheburashka is this little bear. It's a Soviet cartoon, and I like Masha Medved. Masha and the Bear is a pretty funny kid too. And there was a Soviet cartoon about loneliness, friendship, and hope has turned into the country's biggest modern film success. And this Cheburashka is everywhere. And they have Cheburashkas, and they got these huge ears. And it's a little, I guess it's a bear, the Cheburashka bear. But in most countries, the holiday season in Russia is time for family-friendly movie premieres. But in Russia, the celebrations last at least a week after New Year. So there's an even bigger demand for family entertainment. Competing for the attention of parents and children are fairy tales, comedies about getting away from the city, and the long-running movie franchise Yolki, which has released new installments almost every year since 2010, but not this year. In early January, Cheburashka 2, directed by Dmitry Dyachenko, broke Russia's box office into the global conversation. In its first week of release, the film ranked number 3 worldwide in theatrical box office charts, outperforming many international competitors. And in just 2 weeks, Cheburashka 2 has crossed the 5 billion ruble mark, becoming only the second film in Russian history to do so. The only other movie to reach that milestone was its predecessor. And at first glance, the success of the sequel about a mysterious furry creature from a Soviet children's cartoon may seem puzzling, but Cheburashka's story, which began with a book, grew into a beloved animated series and evolved into a record-breaking live-action franchise, and it taps into something deeper than nostalgia. Beneath its family-friendly surface lies a reflection of Soviet and modern anxieties, loneliness, and the enduring need for kindness and connection. So, the Soviet Friendship Blues. On December 31st, 1969, a new cartoon was released by Soyuz Multfilm. Soyuz Union Multfilm is a cartoon, Soviet cartoon. According to the plot, a fruit seller at a market opened a box of oranges and discovered a creature unknown to science. The creature was sleepy, and when the seller tried to set it upright, it fell over twice. Fell over again, huh? You're quite a Cheburashka, the fruit seller remarked. In Russian, it's a play on words. Cheburashka is from the, it's like the word clumsy. Cheburachnutsia is to fall over. Cheburachnutsia. That is how the creature got its name. Soon after, Cheburashka met a lonely crocodile, inspired a grumpy old woman to become kind, and even went to school. Based on a book by Edward Uspensky, the cartoon Gena the Crocodile became a hit in the USSR. I've known about Gena the Crocodile for a very long time, and he sang birthday songs, and I remember watching that. I still know the song. I could sing it to you in Russian, and it begins with Pushback ukluji peshihoji paluzham, and that is how you learn. That is how children learn. That is how we learned in my Russian school in Monterey, California, Defense Language Institute. And part of it was listening to Gena the Crocodile. And we saw Cheburashka, but Cheburashka was actually secondary to the Molt film, which was very, very Gena the Crocodile. And Gena the Crocodile, now there's Masha Medved, which is Masha is a little girl's name. And the Medved is a bear, of course, and Masha and the bear. And she's always out tormenting this bear. She's a devious child. Anyway, Cheburashka came from the word Cheburachnutsia, which is to fall over. That's how the creature got its name. But soon after, met the crocodile. Gena the crocodile was quickly a hit in the USSR. To be fair, there wasn't much competition. Soviet animation was in its infancy, and the year lacked major family movie releases. It wasn't about the market, however. People were attracted by the cartoon's unique animation style, the ear-worn songs, and the famous author Edward Uspensky. But above all, they liked the memorable main characters, which were Gena the crocodile, who's an intelligent crocodile who sports a hat and a bow tie, and he plays chess. He doesn't have many friends, but once he does find companions, he realizes that there are many lonely people in his city. So he's determined to do something about it. He builds a house for friends where everyone can find companionship. Moreover, Gena continues to assist others and helps his friends find their place in life. He's a melancholy, occasionally awkward, and somewhat pessimistic, sounds like me, but ultimately he is the image of a caring adult. And in Russian Multfilmy, I like them. In contrast, Cheburashka embodies childlike optimism. Cheburashka is very, very positive on life. And Cheburashka is the only one who isn't afraid of the rat, the assistant of the film's antagonist, old lady Shapokliak, because he doesn't know that rats are considered scary. Worried he might not fit in, he strives to connect with everybody. Viewers are enchanted by this childlike sincerity and lines like, "Let me carry the bags and you can carry me." The characters' experiences and aspirations show real issues in the USSR at the time. Back then, post-war demographic boom had subsided and birth rates had been declining. Additionally, a new wave of urbanization and industrialization was underway, which caused families across the country to relocate to other cities and even different republics in the Soviet Union. Everybody had trouble making new friends. Kids struggled as they changed schools, often moving to places with fewer peers, while adults found it tough to connect due to challenges of moving and adapting to new places in a country that was still recovering from losing 26 million people in World War II. So emotional resonance and vibrant animation secured Gena the crocodile and Cheburashka, which nobody knows what it is. It's a huge-eared bear. They became toys and mascots for Russia's Olympic team. They graced postage stamps, inspired popular jokes, and even saw international adaptations like the Japanese series Cheburashka Arere, which retold the story of the House of Friends in short episodes in Japan. So, bridging the generation gap with fur. And during the 2023 holiday season, Cheburashka returned to the big screen TV, not as a cartoon, but this time as a live-action animated comedy. And other things changed as well. This time, Cheburashka didn't arrive in a box of oranges. Instead, the creature is swept into Russia by a powerful tornado from an orange grove. Gena is no longer a crocodile, but a grumpy janitor with a botanical garden trying to mend his relationship with his daughter. Old lady Shapokliak has transformed into the head of a corporation aiming to buy out the chocolate shop owned by Gena's daughter. Initially reluctant to welcome Cheburashka into his life, Gena gradually warms up, especially as the creature helps his grandson speak for the first time. Cheburashka learns to read, unites the family, saves a small business from bankruptcy, and even softens the heart of the hardened entrepreneur. So rather than sticking with the original plot with minor tweaks and updates, as is common in live-action remakes of cartoon classics, the creators opted for a completely new story. The original Soviet cartoon no longer shows Russian society. People aren't as isolated as before. Both kids and adults can connect through social media, interest-based communities, etc. Today's pressing issues revolve around strained generational bonds, the quest for individuality in a global world, and finding genuine, meaningful connection. Gena has changed too. The creators believe that an awkward, intelligent Gena wouldn't be as appealing to modern viewers. But I love Gena the crocodile. I thought Gena was a very good character. And Cheburashka was always a second, to Gena. But they reversed it. The filmmakers knew that many Russians feel sentimental about the beloved Soviet cartoon. And they could have gone the safe way by relying on a star-studded cast and sticking to an old plot like they did with Slyokim Parem, which is a romance, which means have a nice bath, and it was one of the it's a Christmas movie. Well, it's really not, but it's a holiday movie. It's a New Year's adventure where one of the. I mean, I watch that every year. It's in my repertoire, and they have it they have English versions of it, and they've created new versions of this. The Home Alone series, but these are adults, and the original still takes the cake in my humble opinion. And the Russians have the Russian cinema and Odessa cinema has some great films. I've talked about them before, and I find them quite positive. So the filmmakers knew that many Russians feel sentimental about the cartoon. The critics had mixed reviews about the way the cartoon, which isn't really they had a cartoon figure. But it wasn't a cartoon. It was more like a animation of a figure that worked. Like I don't know. Pick one in the United States. We've done it before too. Even though Cheburashka was marketed as a holiday film, viewers continue to flock to movie theaters well after the holidays. 5 months, the comedy grossed 7 billion rubles, which made it the highest-grossing Russian film and placed it among the top 20 global box office hits of that year. Analysts believe the recently released sequel will break those box office records. So the global remake trend has reached Russia. This is what they claim is Cheburashka's secret. But not every new take on a beloved classic is a success. Cheburashka stands out because its creators updated the story, but didn't change the essence. The endearing creature from afar remains innocent, kind-hearted, optimistic, and friendly, but the film doesn't attempt to explain Cheburashka's origins. They don't complicate his character or subvert the expectations. Modern viewers, even those who typically favor realistic and gritty, need such unapologetically kind and uplifting characters. That's why Cheburashka is universally beloved. Recently, a member of the State Duma jokingly suggested that Cheburashka might be Jewish, claiming that in 1969, oranges in the USSR were imported only from Israel. So the mysterious creature must have gotten into one of those boxes. Not everyone found this joke amusing. Some argued that Cheburashka originated in Russia and can only be Russian. Others note that Cheburashka's nationality is irrelevant. The furry creature belongs to the whole world. Now, I like so many Russian films and so many. I'll go see Cheburashka too, but about it had to be, in the season of 2023, when the New Year season came, it was such a huge story, Cheburashka, that they this comedy club, which has been around for 20, 25 years. It's been around a long time. You could watch Pavel Voyin and Garek Harlamov are the two main main comedians on there, and you've basically watched these guys grow up from the time they were in their mid-20s, early 20s, until they're a divorce or two, between them, different things, different jokes, but it's still a fantastic hit. And one of the things I would love to do would be to be in the studio for a taping of Comedy Club, but about in the 2023 New Year's edition, which was probably one of the funniest comedy shows I have ever seen. Oh my God, I was laughing my ass off the entire time. And during it, they have a guy who is a Putin double. He speaks like him. His mannerisms are identical, and he's a comedian. And he's got one role, he doesn't play any other role. I've never seen him in a different comedy club doing something else. I'd have to go look. Maybe that's not true. But I've never seen him do anything except play Vladimir Putin. And during it, another guy named Demis. Demis. Well, I can't remember, but a comedian named Demis. Damn it, it'll come to me. But he's freaking hilarious too, and he always does. Well, it doesn't matter. He's freaking hilarious, and he came out in a Cheburashka suit, and excuse me, I'm really a little. I don't have any coffee today, but he came out as Cheburashka on the stage in this enormous Cheburashka thing, and everybody was laughing at him. And Putin comes out on the stage, this other comedian, and he was sending Cheburashka on a secret mission. And he had a secret mission, and it was when the world was making fun of Joe Biden. And oh my God, it was so freaking hilarious. What they were they were sending Cheburashka on a secret mission to take over as president of the United States. And part of the funny part was, well, you don't speak well. That fits. You speak like a child. Well, so does the president. He was going to knock off Joe Biden, and Putin is sending Cheburashka to be in charge of the United States. And anyway, it was a pretty funny episode. Hilarious. Anyway, I wanted to talk about certainly Cheburashka and some of the history of what they do, and now this is really a big deal. Number 3 in the world is where they are, and if they do it in English, I mean, heck, it's beautiful for kids to watch. It's great, kids. At least the first one was. I watched it, and again, a crocodile and Cheburashka were pretty funny. I always watch Gena Crocodile, and I've always sang the birthday wishes. Well, to anybody who speaks Russian, the little birthday. Basically, it's a birthday song that ends with unfortunately birthdays only come one time per year is the end of the song. Let's see. Man, there's so much news on Greenland that people are talking about, and getting Greenland would be a huge historical achievement for Trump, according to a political consultant. There's a, let's see. I wanted to go to another story of what I see as very American and also very Russian. It's Russians and Americans standing up. we stand up to things that we disagree with. We stand up. Well, Russians do as well. And let's talk about the Russian hockey legend Alexander Ovechkin, the Washington Capitals star. Passed up Gretzky last year, or was it maybe year before? Russian hockey legend Alexander Ovechkin has refused to participate in an NHL event in support of the LGBTQ community. Ovechkin's team, the Capitals, hosted their annual Pride Night during a game against the Panthers, Florida Panthers, on Saturday. Several players wrapped their hockey sticks with rainbow-colored tape ahead of the matchup. Ovechkin took to the ice using traditional white tape on his stick, staying true to his previous rejection of virtue signaling. The Capitals lost to the Panthers with a score of 2-5. Coach Spencer Carberry said after the game it was a great night to celebrate Pride. Wish we could have gotten the win tonight. The NHL introduced Pride Night events more than 2 decades ago. The use of LGBTQ specialty gear was banned in 2023 after several Russian players refused to wear rainbow-themed sweaters, citing religious beliefs. The league later overturned restrictions on the use of rainbow-colored tape and allowed players to decide individually whether to use it during games. Yeah. At the time, Capitals captain Ovechkin praised the league's leadership for not imposing sanctions on players who refused to participate in Pride Night. Well, what can I say here? He said, well done. It should be like this everywhere. Ovechkin made history last year when he scored his 895th regular season goal in the NHL, surpassing Wayne Gretzky's long-standing record. He has since added more goals, bringing his career total to 917. Shortly after breaking the NHL's all-time scoring record, Ovechkin was added to Ukraine's Mirotvorets list, which is a controversial state-linked website that lists individuals described as enemies of the country for working to whitewash Russia's reputation by participating in international sporting events. So the database contains personal information of individuals accused of posing a threat to Ukraine's national security, and is described by critics as a kill list because multiple cases of people who are listed on it are killed or died under suspicious circumstances. Mm-hmm. Yes. Few more things about Greenland just because I find it amusing. Demand for survival supplies and long-lasting food products, including MREs, has soared in Greenland's capital city of Nuuk, CNN reported Monday, citing local retailers. The surge comes amid growing concern over U.S. interference on the Arctic island, and then it talks about the idiot Besant, and the guy's not too bright as a salesperson. Let's see. Shopkeepers in Nuuk told CNN that residents are buying camping stove, long shelf life food, and freeze-dried meals in abundance. Meanwhile, locals interviewed by Reuters Sunday say they strongly oppose any U.S. takeover of Greenland, describing Trump's remarks as irrational and threatening. Greenlanders stressed that they are not intimidated, expressed confidence the plan would fail, and pointing to political and military support. Last week, several states, blah, blah, blah. I won't read that again. But the EU, let's get to these geniuses, and then I want to get to the latest Trump-Putin news. This is, let's see. The EU is preparing its most powerful trade weapons in response to Donald Trump. Escalating tariff threats is what are going on here. Yeah. An emergency meeting on Sunday, yesterday, EU members signaled strong unity with Denmark and Greenland, but chose not to immediately trigger the anti-coercion instrument, which is called the Trade Bazooka, the ACI. The bloc is ready to revive a suspended retaliatory tariff on U.S. goods if Trump imposes the new duties, said a person familiar with the talks. The confrontation intensified Saturday when Trump announced a 10% tariff starting February 1st for 8 European nations, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, Netherlands, UK, Finland, for opposing his bid to acquire Greenland. He warned the levy would go to 25% on June 1 if there's no deal for the U.S. to take over. To take over. The EU potential countermeasures exist on 2 levels, and the most immediate is the 93 billion euro retaliation package, which was prepared last year in response to Trump's first tariff round. And remember, Ursula von der Leyen came in and just basically capitulated to Trump at that time. Why wouldn't he say that this is what he's going to do? Because she just gave up. You know, an EU diplomat told Reuters the package will automatically come back into force on February 6th. More significantly, leaders are actively discussing the unprecedented use of ACI, this anti-coercion instrument. Now, this was adopted in 2023. It allows the bloc to punish economic coercion with measures like restricting access to their own markets, investment, or intellectual property rights. It was designed with adversarial economic powers in mind. French President Emmanuel Macron, not a genius either, reportedly explicitly called for its activation after branding Trump's threats unacceptable. He will ask, in the name of France, for the activation of the anti-coercion instrument, his office stated on Sunday. European Council President Antonio Costa has convened an extraordinary summit of EU leaders for Thursday, January 22, to coordinate a united stance. The bloc is ready to defend itself against any form of coercion. Oh, really? Let's see. Trump, meanwhile, there's a couple of stories on him I want to talk about because he got the Nobel Prize indirectly. This, whatever her name is, I forget, Menudo? I can't remember. That's a soup, isn't it? But let's see. Where is my next story? Or the one I wanted to, before I get to this one, I wanted to jump in on the Putin-Trump news. Here it is. So this is today's biggest piece of news. So yesterday there was a a speech, a 15-minute speech I listened to by Putin. First of the year, he's talking about all these positive things and all the things that are going on, and he said, Russia has been invited to sit, on a new peace board, which is proposed by U.S. President Trump and meant to steer post-war governance and reconstruction in Gaza, said Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov. Trump proposed the board late last year, following a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. The initiative envisages an international council overseeing reconstruction funding, security arrangements, and political coordination in Gaza, working alongside a Palestinian technocrat administration during transition periods. The White House said the body could later be expanded to address other conflicts. According to draft documents, countries can join the board, but their participation would be capped at 3 years unless they pay more than $1 billion in cash in the first year. This is interesting. Trump invited India to join it as well. Speaking to reporters on Monday, Peskov confirmed that Putin had been invited to join the body through diplomatic channels. We are studying the details of the proposal. We hope to hold contacts with the U.S. side to clarify all the nuances, he said, without elaborating on specifics. A wide range of countries across Europe, the Middle East, Asia, including U.S. allies and regional powers, have confirmed receiving invitation letters. Viktor Orban, Hungarian Prime Minister, and Vietnamese Communist Party chief To Lam have accepted invitations. But several other countries have expressed caution, saying they would like the U.S. to elaborate on what membership in the body would mean and entail, with critics arguing that the board could overlap with or sideline existing UN mechanisms. So, I found this interesting because it appears that the U.S. is out, through Trump, or Trump is out, creating all new international bodies. Remember last week they announced, Trump announced, withdrawal from 66 do-nothing bodies, right? That or bodies that are anti-U.S. They don't have enough U.S. focus. I'm not sure how I feel about this, creating your own board, but it seems like a valuable thing. But if you don't tell Israel that they have to, quit destroying the place, what good's it gonna do? The peace isn't holding out, but now we're certainly interested in peace over there. I'm interested in peace everywhere, and we had another story to go through. Where is this one? Also on the old Trumpster. So this one had to do over the Nobel Peace Prize that I wanted to get to as well. U.S. President Trump has rebuked Norway for not awarding the Nobel Peace Prize to him, saying the decision had freed him from any obligation to think of peace. Purely of peace, is what he said, according to a letter circulated by multiple media outlets Monday. Trump made the jab in a message to Norwegian Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Stone, blasting Norway over its refusal to give me the Nobel Peace Prize for having stopped 8 wars, all caps, plus. In light of this, the U.S. president said he no longer feels an obligation to think purely of peace, but he noted that peace would still remain predominant on his agenda, and he could now focus on what is good and proper for the United States of America, even if that means not peace. Excuse me. Trump continued the letter by pivoting to his push for establishing U.S. control over Greenland, an autonomous Danish territory, arguing that the world is not secure unless we have complete and total control of Greenland. Excuse me. Sorry about that. He questioned Denmark's claim to Greenland, too, saying that there are no written documents establishing ownership and arguing that Copenhagen could not protect a strategic Arctic island from Russia and China. I've done more for NATO than any other person since its founding. And now NATO should do something for the United States. I'm not sure where Trump gets off saying that he has done more for NATO than any other person since its founding. What has he done? I mean, I want to know specifically what he's talking about. Is he talking about upping the 5% from the rest of everybody else? I don't know. Anyway, the U.S. and European members of blah, blah, blah. Tensions escalate, blah, blah, blah. Let's see. The Nobel Peace Prize is awarded by the independent Norwegian Nobel Committee. Officials in Oslo insist they have no influence over its decisions. The 2025 Nobel Peace Prize was awarded to Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado, who in January gifted the medal to Trump. While the U.S. president praised the move as a wonderful gesture of mutual respect, the Nobel Committee refused to recognize the handover, saying the award and title can neither be revoked, shared, nor transferred to others. All that is a ploy for him to appoint her as supreme goddess of Venezuela. That's what that is. And so that's quite self-serving, no doubt, in her story. I find that just... The world of the ridiculous is just almost comical. The UK says it will not yield to Trump on Greenland. What do you think of this? With the UK, our longest ally. What do you think of that? UK's Culture Secretary, Lisa Nandy, let's see. The British position on the U.S. bid to acquire Greenland is non-negotiable, says British Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy. She vowed that the UK government will not yield to pressure from Trump, who has announced plans to impose trade tariffs. Trump claims U.S. sovereignty over Greenland is necessary. Yeah, because of his hypothetical Chinese and Russian takeovers. The move has drawn varying degrees of criticism from Europe. Our position on Greenland is non-negotiable. We've made that very clear, and we'll continue to make that clear, said Nandy. Starmer, good old Starmer, has said the island's future is a matter for Greenlanders and Danes to decide, and imposing tariffs on NATO states resisting Trump's aspirations is completely wrong. Yeah. But old Starmer, he's not a genius, is he? This is better than watching, theater. The story. I mean, you couldn't. This is unbelievable to me. where we go from here. I don't know. I'm keeping an eye on it, but I no longer trust that sane heads will prevail. Not that I ever have, but very, very interesting times we be a living in. So I talk about high-speed rail quite a bit, and there was 40 people killed in a high-speed train collision. And it says 39 people killed and dozens injured after two high-speed trains collided in southern Spain. Emergency services reported that 73 people were injured, with 24 still in serious condition, including 4 minors. The incident happened in the Ademuz municipality near the city of Cordoba in Spain. It's in the Andalusia region, and it happened at 7:45 p.m. Sunday. The tail end of a train traveling from Malaga to Madrid with about 300 passengers on board went off the track and crashed into an incoming train carrying 200 people from Madrid to Huelva, causing it to also derail, said the operator. Rescuers were deployed on site, removed all of the survivors from the overturned carriages by midnight, Spanish Transport Minister Oscar Puente said. But he warned that the death toll will rise and the search for bodies is continuing. And there was a video of it, which you can find. The reason for the crash have yet to be established. Said that the incident is truly strange because it happened on a flat stretch of track that had been renovated last May. The train was the first to derail, is less than 4 years old. So they can't figure out what happened. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez expressed condolences to families and loved ones. Tonight is one of deep sadness for the country, he said on X. I guess everybody is Xifying and truth socialing. Spain has the largest rail network for trains traveling at speeds over 250 kilometers per hour in the EU, and they have 3,000 kilometers, 1,900 miles or so, of track. The country last had a major railway accident in 2013 when 80 people were killed after a train derailed in the northwestern city of Santiago de Compostela. Yeah, that's unfortunate. That's very sad. Our hearts go out to them, and we don't like to see that. They have, they can get around their country, but boy, if you crash in a train any train crash is, still a bad news anyway. And certainly if they're going high speeds like that. So let us see what else we can share with you on this beautiful Monday morning. You know what I wanted to search for? So I think I'm going to try to end the show with this because I like it. And let's see. But I need to go to YouTube to find it. Let's see. And I have to find out who or where it is, because it is what we are. I don't think JR has this in the repertoire, and it's came from one of my favorite albums that is by a group called OMD, Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark. And I'm going to play one for you that will be symbolic for the fact that it is Martin Luther King Day today. And I believe I have found it, but I don't wish to play it just yet. I shall play it when we are leaving. Wonder why I've been suddenly required to go through advertising on YouTube. Is anybody else going through that? It's freaking irritating. I don't like it at all that they are hitting me up for advertising. And excuse me. And we're going to play that when we exit stage right later after the show. What else do we have in the opinion end here? Maybe we could end with that. I find this, here's an article published. It's an opinion piece, and so, but it's very positive of the old Trumpster. And this is written by Nadezhda Romanenko. She's a political analyst, and I've shared some of her work before. I like reading opinions from around the planet, and she is one of the ones that I like to share with you. She's sane, you know. Sometimes people are just loopy, and oops, now the screen's gone black. What have I done? Well, it wasn't me. It was my evil twin brother. Let's see. But the article, nope, it just went black again. This wasn't me. I didn't do it. Okay, well, wonder if this is going to continue, because then I shan't be able to share this with you. But it's, again, the old Trump and Greenland. But this one, whatever the methods, history remembers results, and it is hard to argue with the single largest expansion of U.S. territory. If Trump were to consummate, and this by Nadezhda, damn it, why does the screen keep going black, JR? This is troubling. If Donald Trump were to consummate a purchase of Greenland, he would almost certainly secure a place in both American and global history. Beyond the spectacle of it all, the scale alone would be staggering. Greenland spans roughly 2.17 million square miles, making it comparable in size to the entire Louisiana Purchase of 1803 and larger than the 1867 Alaska Purchase. Fold that landmass into today's United States, and America's total area would jump past Canada, placing the U.S. second only to Russia in territorial size. In a system where size, resources, and strategic depth still matter, such a shift would be read around the world as an assertion of enduring American reach. Prestige is only part of the story. I think it's not part of the story. Greenland sits astride the Arctic, where warming seas are reshaping trade routes and great power competition. It hosts critical radar and space tracking infrastructure and lies close to emerging maritime lanes and subsea resources. Its geology, long discussed for rare earth and critical minerals, add a layer of economic promise. For a president who measures success in visible, audacious strokes, the symbolism of converting a long moot idea into a concrete map change would be irresistible and historically resonant. How would Trump be remembered at home if he pulled it off peacefully through purchase? American memory tends to fix on outcomes, not process. The Louisiana Purchase is celebrated for doubling the
the young nation, not for the constitutional scruples it raised at the time. The Alaska Purchase, derided as Seward's folly, is now taught as strategic foresight. The sheer scale of Greenland would make it the single largest one-time expansion in U.S. history, narrowly edging out Louisiana in raw area. That alone would place any president in the pantheon of consequential leaders. Trump would likely be discussed in the same breath as Jefferson and, by sheer magnitude of territorial change, alongside the transformative figures students first learn. None of this denies the friction such a move would create. Denmark and Greenland possess their own political dynamics and legal prerogatives, and Washington's meek European allies have signaled discomfort with any transactional treatment of sovereignty. The rhetoric around a rules-based Arctic yeah, there's no rules-based anything else, would not vanish overnight, but in the end, it would be reframed. History's rules are often codified after the fact to fit the outcomes major powers achieve. That is an interesting statement and why I wanted to share this article. History's rules are often codified after the fact to fit the outcomes major powers achieve. That's well written and very true. That is basically the same statement as, the rewrites of history go to the victor, right? If a peaceful, lawful purchase were concluded, the international system would move quickly to recognize the new reality, just as it did after prior land cessions in the 19th century. The controversy and the pressure exerted to enact such purchase would mitigate from front pages of newspapers to footnotes in history books. Quite true. Domestically, opposition would be sharp in the moment, especially over process, cost, and precedent. It would be massively amplified by the divisiveness of Trump's figure. Yet American political memory is selective. That's another very big tell. American political memory is selective. If the acquisition delivered clear strategic advantage and was followed by effective integration and investment, the drama of the negotiations would fade while the map endured. Schoolroom globes would change. So would calculations in defense, climate science, and resource policy. Over time, anniversaries, not the acrimony, would structure how most citizens encounter the story. There are, of course, ways this legacy could sour. America remembers big swings, but it also remembers boondoggles. If the path to acquisition trampled consent, sparks long-running dispute, or fails to deliver tangible benefit, the afterglow would dim and the comparison to Jefferson or Seward would feel strained for a time. Still, if Trump were to acquire Greenland, historians would struggle to write the modern American story without giving him a central chapter. The combination of scale, symbolism, and strategic repositioning would be too significant to treat as a footnote. Whatever one thinks of his methods, the legacy question in the scenario is straightforward. The map would testify on his behalf long after today's arguments have quieted. That is how history so often works. Outcomes etched in borders become the monuments. Pause for a minute and reflect upon those words, because it's absolutely true. America, people still talk today about us destroying millions upon millions of indigenous Indians here. And in our takeover coast to coast, including in the Louisiana Purchase, which we purchased from someone who didn't own it. But if Trump pulls off the same thing, Jesus, hopefully we won't kill all the Aleutian people up there, if they're still Aleuts, or if they're, they are Eskimo based. And I saw something about all of the advertising elements are out in America, trying to make this normal, that we're stealing Greenland, and trying to make it normal that we're doing so. We have our own cultural secretary who, I forget her name, but she was out talking about, they have summits between Eskimos in Greenland and those in Alaska. We already are working together, basically, is what her take on that was. Don't you find that amusing? Anyway, that is... unfortunately, the writing is on the wall. I don't believe that anybody's going to withstand this too much. I kind of doubt it. And we shall see what shall be seen. But the rich get richer. I don't imagine. I wonder, so I suppose it would be interesting to see who owns what in Greenland. Or if Trump is just going to do what he did in Greenland and give it to the oil companies. He's going to give it to whom? If he buys it, if we buy it, what happens to the people who own the land at present? What happens? I'd like to know quite a bit more about this. And on Martin Luther King Day, because I enjoy this, I'm going to play for you the orchestral maneuvers in the dark. And I like this, and I don't think JR has it, so I didn't even go look. I don't know how to search in his deal anyway, but here I think this will play correctly for us, hopefully without commercial.